Hello everyone. I wanted to do a recording to talk about why I set the bar so high. I will of course be using Cyberpunk as an example. To start, I think it's fair to say that there is two main factors as to how I view a game. Those are going to be prior experience and consumer of the product. I'll start with the experience. I know it may not seem like it with how scatterbrained I am on this YouTube channel, but I was a game tester for 10 years. When I was a game tester, it was during the days when my health didn't deteriorate as much as it is now. I used to be able to share opinions, suggestions, or otherwise precisely and clearly. Those days are long gone, though. All I can do is try. As a game tester, my entire job was to play video games and check for the quality or bugs. It really depends on what was asked of me at the time. It could have been a contract for many different things, and those are two such examples. When I am playing a game, I draw from that experience or relive memories from it. If I run into a bug, I will say something like, oh yeah, I would have for sure found that if I was at the wheel of the development team, because that's a bug that I've seen before. Those kinds of things. It is a letdown when it does happen to a game that I want to play, when those kinds of things happen. Okay, consumer of the product. I try not to make this an everyday thing because I want people to see me as is, if you will. I am disabled and I do have health issues. One of my health issues is actually chronic. It's something I've come to terms with and made peace with. That's one of the main reasons that I do not draw attention to it or make it a focal point. Of course, the other reason is the one I just mentioned, in which I don't want it to be the thing people see me as or remembers me as. However, it does relate to why I need to talk about it. There are days when I am bedridden for extended periods of time. I'm very fortunate that there are people in my life who are willing to help me. If there's ever a PC game I want to play when I'm bedridden, there is somebody that will make that offer to buy the game for me. I try not to ask for that too much, as I don't want to impose on them. When a game does not do as well as I was hoping, then I feel bad for asking, because I actually did ask for help getting Cyberpunk. So it's not the first time, but it's certainly disappointing when it does happen. Now comes the example here. One of the many minor factors that I do factor into my thoughts or opinions is the company's history. Cyberpunk is from the company that made Witcher 3. Let me tab over so you can see this. If you were to Google Cyberpunk 2077, you will notice right here that it says from the creators of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. This is a similar tactic to Phoenix Point, which is a more recent example. Phoenix Point did something similar with their advertisement. It turned out the game sucked, but if I remember right, they said the creative director of XCOM was behind Phoenix Point or something like that, and it just turned out to be a colossal flop. It made me so very sad. I expected better from an XCOM person. But anyways, back to Cyberpunk. So, when I see stuff like this, that's something I'm factoring too, not just my prior experience with that game, but also how they're advertising it. So when I see this, I'm very, very sad. Because I really don't feel like Cyberpunk delivered as well as it should have for somebody who created Witcher 3, which is, by the way, a great game. I'll go and end this recording by talking about some examples of games that have met my high bar. Vampire the Masquerade Redemption is perhaps a great example. I see that other people agree with me. When I did a Google search on Vampire the Masquerade Redemption a few years ago, I found a top 50 games of our lifetime list, and I noticed it was in there. I am not surprised at all because Vampire the Masquerade Redemption was very advanced for its time. It was using shadow techniques or something that was well beyond the time of the developers during the early 2000s. I think, if I remember right, an article said it took until 2009 before that shadow technique became a thing. This game came out in 2001. It took 8 years for people to figure out how Vampire the Masquerade Redemption did it, essentially. So, yes, it was very ahead of its time, and the story was very good, too. Not just in the story itself, but how well they presented it. You see, Vampire the Masquerade Redemption's story spans well past 1,000 years of, game timeline. But the game was never that long. They did a very good job of taking that 1,000 plus years and putting it into the game in such a way that it wasn't too long and it wasn't too short. It was presented well and clearly so you knew what the story was. Vampire the Masquerade did an amazing job, and I really wish for more quality games like that. Let's talk about Deus Ex, actually. Yeah, that's a good one. I really like Deus Ex Human Revolution and Mankind Divided. I know, unpopular opinion, but I thought they were very interesting games and an overall blast to play. Mankind Divided more so than Human Revolution. Human Revolution had a lot of great ideas and implementations for the Deus Ex series, but it lacked the verticality and some of the other things that Mankind Divided provided. Mankind Divided presented new challenges with the verticality, while still keeping that Deus Ex feel. Now, yes, Deus Ex Mankind Divided certainly had its issues, such as you had to CPU pin in if you're playing it on a newer system, but those are things that you can easily work around. I don't see it as a real problem. If it was a problem where the game crashed every time you open, yeah, that's a real problem, but if you're forced to CPU pin it, I don't see that as a real issue. That's very easy to work around. Yes, it's annoying to do, but it's at least it's just that. There's no other game-breaking things going on. Yeah, so those are just some examples, but I will say that it does take a lot for a game to reach my high bar. I do it for very good reasons, as you've probably discovered from the prior discussions, and I will continue to do so. I'm an honest person, and if I don't feel like something is worth the money or it did something wrong, I'm going to say it. Thanks for listening.